Starting the recording, so I'll try not to embarrass myself now. So yeah, we're gonna record this too if anybody needs it again later for reference. So I'm the CEO at NCA Comp. I work as your account manager currently. So I work with Emily and Lindsay and Susie to get everything done. I'm also working with a guy named Brian Gugert, who is new to NCA, and he'll be taking over primary for you guys. So if you see that name, he's also working with us to assist your program and to do these kinds of trainings and to help you out with any reports that you might need. So I think he's on the webinar, but I don't think he can present. So just know he's got a great name, great guy, turns around things really quickly. So he's kind of partnering with me on this as well. So I'll dig into the presentation here. There we go. Oh, I just introduced myself. So at NCA Comp, we are your third-party administrator. So we kind of act like an insurance company, but really the county is a self-insured plan, which means that all of the premiums that your entities are paying into the plan are then going to pay out for the claims that we pay. NCA is just a fee for service. We pretend to be the insurance company, but we don't take any risk. And I like to think we're a little bit better than insurance companies too. So that is our role. We are here to assist you and to tell you what your legal obligations are, understanding that we are the experts and you don't do this every day, hopefully. So we're going to run through the claim timeline from the initial injury, how to report the claim, all the way through to claim closure, and that's what we'll go through in this presentation. Initial injury, diving right in. When you have an employee that's injured on the job, the injured worker should notify his or her supervisor of the accident, should obtain necessary medical treatment. I want to say one thing here that, you know, when you've got somebody who is when you've got somebody who's like laying there bleeding, you don't need to worry about the forms. Let's get the medical treatment first and make sure that they're taken care of first. So the forms can wait, not for long. I'm going to get into that, but make sure that everybody knows what happened. Make sure that the person is getting treated first. When you get notified of the injury, and I understand that this might come through different chains of command. So this might be something that you're passing on to the supervisors that you're working with as well. But when you get notified of an injury, make sure to take a detailed account of what happened, ask open-ended questions, and then report back to us or to the county office for the claim to be filed. You also, if you are able to, you can provide information to the employee about their claim. I'm going to go through the new claim, the injured worker packet, and where you can find that. So if that's something that you would like to be able to do, you can do that. If you don't know and don't want to be involved, you can also send them over to NCA, so we can help them out as well. Just from a safety standpoint, you guys do have safety resources at the county. So in order to help them to do their work, more details better. Make sure these aren't happening, you know, over and over again, especially the same type of injury. I'm just going to, if you guys want to mute your mics if you're not muted, be helpful. Second, reporting the claim. So to get workers' comp benefits, a claim must be reported to the Workers' Compensation Board. The law is within 10 days of notice of the injury. So within 10 days of the employer having notice, or within 18 days of the event, whichever is later. But I know that that's a lot to remember. So what I want you to remember is just get that information over to us within a week. Just get it to us within a week and we'll be within all the time deadlines. I'm going to go through later what those time deadlines are, so you'll have them as a reference. But really, when we miss deadlines, we get penalties. So we want to make sure that forms and information is passed along quickly. It also slows down the treatment of the injured worker. So we want to make sure that things move along quickly. So again, we don't need things, you know, the hour that they happened, but we do need them as quickly as you can reasonably get them to us, ideally within a week. Go employer. So to report the claim to us, to gather the information, you can utilize any internal incident report that you're using right now. I've got an example here of a first aid report that you can use, and a lot of the examples that I'm going to use too, or I'm going to show, are here on our website. We've got, this is the first aid form. Honestly, the amount of claims that the board is taking in and filing, you're going to be better served. It's going to be better time management if you just fill out a C2F form. And again, this is on NCA Comp under News and Resources, Resources and Forms. That's where you can find these forms, basically everything that you might need. So the C2F form is going to be the easiest to use. You'll only have to do it once throughout the claim. But if you use a different form, that's okay. Let's just get all the information and we can get it into the system. Again, from a safety standpoint, you will have people that are looking at this. Are there ways to prevent the injury from happening again? Is there faulty equipment involved? Is there training data available? The the cheapest and best quality way to look at an accident is doing the root cause analysis type work, and you can't do that without detailed information on the claim. So just know that you've got safety people who are looking at these accidents, and the more information that you can give them, the better. Next up, so once you put in a claim at NCA, you'll be working with your adjuster, who's Valerie Rack for you guys. And the adjuster assigned to this claim will be completing their own investigation to determine the compensability of the claim or whether or not we're going to accept it. There's a lot of gray areas in workers' comp, whether or not they were technically working at the time, whether or not this was an idiopathic claim or something that was caused by their work. So we will be asking a lot of follow-up questions to kind of dig in what happened. The severity of the claim will generally indicate or will dictate what type of investigation that we do. The more severe the claim is, the more of the investigation we will dig into. So just be aware of that. And Val will be working with you to get the injured worker contact, especially for a severe claim. We're going to want to talk to the injured worker and make sure we get their side of the story. Again, with a severe claim, we might want to talk to the medical provider and get their contact information. Any witnesses are also very helpful. Just a note that we have in our system, but when you are giving us witness information, area codes are very helpful. I know a lot of cell phones kind of get different area codes in there, so make sure to give us the area codes. And then if a claim is severe enough, or if you have questions about the claim, then we might have a professional investigator perform an on-site investigation, and even if warranted, might gather photographs and signed statements. That's usually in the worst case scenario where we want to really understand what happened. As I've said, the Workers' Comp Board requires the employer to file forms within strict time deadlines. The injured worker will also have to file forms within deadlines. Their timelines are a lot more generous than yours are. So that's why I say you need to get your stuff in within a week. They can take a month to get their stuff in. Let's see. Oh, Lindsay put in the chat that if you want to be able to log into our website to report claims, you can email Brian, and Brian's email is right in the chat box too, if you want to grab it from there. So yeah, this is something that I want to make sure that we cover, because a lot of times I hear from employers that I couldn't get my form in because the injured worker, the employee, didn't tell me about their claim, and the employee didn't send in their forms. It is not required for them to send in their forms before it is required for you to send in your forms. That makes sense. You've got to be faster than they are, unfortunately. So the form that you're filling out as the employer is the C2F. That's the employer's report of work-related injury or illness. That form is for you, the employer. The employee, the injured worker, the claimant, they have their own form. It's a C3 form. The Workers' Comp Board really wants to make sure that any injured workers have the opportunity to tell their side of the story and it's not being influenced by the employer. So the C2F has to be filled out by the employer, by you, by the clerk. That's different than what the injured worker is filling out. So just be aware of that. The other forms we're going to go through: the injured worker packet that we give to the claimant to tell them about their claim form, the report of injured employees change in status or return to work. That's a form that's filled out multiple times during the claim, the C11. That's filled out every time somebody leaves work or returns to work after getting treatment or having to be out to recover. And then the C-240, this is the form everybody loves to hate. This is the statement of wage earnings preceding the accident. This is where you have to put the 52 weeks of earnings that the injured worker had before their injury. That's how we determine their benefit level and how much money they get paid for every week of work that they miss. That one is a lot of work, that form. It's only done once at the onset of the claim. And we'll get into them in a little bit more depth here. So the C2F form, and I want to show you again on the NCA website. So if you scroll down here, this is this is resources and forms. If you scroll down here, you've got the C2F document. If it's easier for you and you want to print off a copy of it so you understand the information you have to gather, great. And then if you then want to go into the NCA Comp website and log in to our system there, then you can do that. You can do that there. Let's see, I want to get back to here, not there. There we go. So the C2F form, this is how we describe the initial injury to the comp board. We put this form in electronically. So technically speaking, what you are doing is sending us data. We are entering it into our claim system, and then we are sending the data over to the workers' comp board. So this is an electronic form. If you get this presentation, you click on the link, it will take you to the form at the workers' comp board, but I showed you where you can get it at the NCA Comp website as well. I've already said that the claimant is not required to complete the C3 before you complete the C2F. And I've talked about the electronic, and I've talked about the timelines that I kind of want you to ignore because I just want you to send it to us within a week, or set that timeline for yourself for a week. The penalty for a late initial report of a claim is $50. That's an automatic penalty. Now that everything's electronic, the board can see if things are on time or not just by running a formula. So we get an automatic penalty of $50 every time a form is late, but you can get up to $2,500 penalty to the injured worker if the late form means that we were late in starting their pay or late in approving their surgeries or their medical treatment. So just please be cognizant of that. It's not only dollars, but it's people's claims that are being held up if we hold up with these reports as well. All right, the injured worker packet. This is a packet of forms that you are required to give to the injured worker to tell them about their rights under workers' comp. It also tells them about the networks that we use for pharmacy and diagnostics, and it tells them how to report their claim, how to get information on their claim. And let's see, there's the HIPAA release in there that we use to gather medical information that we need. Etc. So this packet, since you are required to give it out, you've got a couple options because you've got NCA with you. So you can either print this off. Again, it's on the NCA Comp website. I'll show you really quickly here. It's right here. You can use this one link here for the whole packet, or you can print off each individual form. So you can do that through the NCA website, or when you're reporting a claim, you can simply notify the adjuster that you did not hand out the packet, and we'll send it out from our office. So we do have a question for that in the online portal if you're filling out claims there. Best practice, if we can get a signed receipt for the packet as proof of distribution, that's great. It is not the most important thing in the claim. So we would love to have that if we can. If we can't, that's okay. Things will keep going. Let's see, next up, the C11 form. So this is a form that's used when somebody has gone out of work or returned to work because of their claim. Just a note, because the workers' comp board is gathering more and more data, sometimes they're asking for the C11 form and the next one, the C240, even when somebody hasn't missed time from work. So if that's the case, then you can leave that blank where they haven't lost any time from work. But just be aware, when we're asking that of you, when we're asking you to send us these forms, it's not because we just love giving you extra work and we want the forms to wallpaper our offices. It's because the workers' comp board has asked us for these forms. So that's where that's coming from. Again, late submission for this is $50, and it can stack up faster if the claimant's benefits were delayed because of it. The next form we're going to talk about is the C-240, the Statement of Wage Earnings. This is the form with 52 weeks of wages prior to the accident date. Again, the board might ask for it even if the person hasn't lost time from work. I'm really sorry about that. When the board asks for it, we have to get it for them. So it's required within 10 days of a request. And again, the time penalties here actually start stacking up quite a bit. There's the initial $50 one, that's automatic, that goes without saying. And then there is another $300 penalty that can get stacked up top if it delays the start of benefits. So they start stacking, and then they start stacking with the 20%. So yeah, again, these forms, it's important to get them in quickly. So let's see. I do want to say also about the C-240. That form can be a little tricky. I'm not going to go into detail on how to fill that out here. If you have a log on to the NCA Comp website, there is a video library of training videos, and there is a short video for each one of these forms. It's like 10 to 15 minutes, and it goes through exactly how to fill out those forms. So if you're having trouble with them, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Brian, or you can just watch that video online too to help you get through those forms, because they can be tricky. Let's see. And I apologize for hopping around. There was one extra thing that I wanted to say about the C2F form. The C2F form, because your safety professional has asked me to actually really hammer this home. The C2F form, when you're initially reporting a claim, if you're doing it online, you don't have to fill in the claim administrator insurer information. We have all that. If the employee has already had a claim, their stuff will auto-populate, which is really nice. You don't have to worry about that if they're already in there. The claim information here, I want to say that the initial treatment box here, when you're selecting an initial treatment, your choices are minor or no medical treatment, minor on-site treatment, minor clinic and hospital treatment, emergency evaluation, hospitalization, or future major medical anticipated. It is very important to get those right to the best of your ability. That helps determine how we direct the claim. So pay attention to that, please, and do your best at choosing the best option there. And then the other thing too, the accident and injury description that we've gotten there, that is what your safety professional is really using to drill down into these accidents and find out what happened, to find out if they're required to be reported to PASH or OSHA and different regulators. So please be as detailed as you can in that accident and injury description. I will also say it is not a place for opinions. So it is not where you put all of your concerns that this might not be a legitimate claim. This is where you put, if it makes you feel better, you can put alleged and put that kind of wording in there. But this is where we just state facts, and the more detail, the better, to help your safety professionals and to help your workers' comp adjuster really get to the bottom of the claim and make sure that the benefits are going where they should go and quickly. So I apologize for hopping around. I did want to make sure to stress that. I'll just pause really quick. Does anybody have any questions on the employer forms in general? If you want to put them into the chat, you are welcome to. All right, next I'm going to talk about employee forms. So there's certain forms that an employee has to fill out to get their workers' comp benefits. They are required to do these on their own, and this type of benefit, there's a reason we call them claims and claimants. You have to make a claim for your benefits. So this is what the employee has to do in order to be eligible for those benefits. So the C3 is the employee claim form. That's the first one. The C3.3, they have to fill that out so that we can get their medical information. And then the VDF1, that's kind of a best practice form to get early in the claim. The VDF1 talks about their vocational data form. This talks about where they've gone to school, what kind of jobs they've had, so that later down the claim line, especially for a severe claim, so that we can look for return to work options and getting these people back to gainful employment, getting them back to work. Honestly, when they're filling out all the forms at the beginning, it's great to throw in that VDF form just to gather that at the same time. Those forms those forms are all available in the injured worker packet. So the place on the website where I'd show you the resources and forms, all of those forms are included in the injured worker packet. So if you'd like to have that either for reference or to hand out, then you can go to our website and grab it and print it all off from there. All right, this, in case you haven't realized, penalties are becoming a real problem in workers' comp. So if we don't get our forms moving quickly, if we don't do our reporting quickly, the board responds with very quick penalties that stack up very quickly. So we've already talked about the C2F, your initial claim form, that's due within 10 days or a week. The C240 within 10 days of when we ask. The C11, again, within 10 days of when we ask. So those are your three main forms as employers that you have to worry about. So honestly, yeah, 7 to 10 days, just put that in your head. Keep in mind, when you send it to us, we send it to the board. We send our transmissions every evening. So we still might need a day or two to make sure those transmissions get through properly. So that's why I ask for a little wiggle room. The initial payment compensation is going to be calculated as quickly as we get those forms. We calculate that with our system and see what their benefit is calculated at. Again, those are pretty steep penalties for missing that. And then if somebody goes back to work, so if they're returning to you and going back to work and you're picking up their payments and we continue paying them their workers' comp benefits because we didn't know that they came back to work, then the claimant gets an extra bonus $300 on all that stuff. And then we have to go back and try to recoup all the benefits that they got that they shouldn't have. So please let us know when they go out. Please let us know when they come back. As our Vice President of Claims likes to say, the crystal ball at NCA has been broken for decades. We can't get it to work, and we really need your help telling us when people come back to work or leave work. The one other one that we've got here is the posting notice, the notice of workers' comp coverage. If you don't have one in your place of employment, it should be where all employees are based. The posting board where all of the regulatory stuff is. If you don't have one for workers' comp, please let me know or let Brian know, and we can get that over to you. It doesn't change because you're self-insured, so year over year it doesn't really change, but it is a good idea to just double check and make sure that that is up there. All right. This is just a little reminder of best practices here. When an employee is out of work for more than 6 months, there's a less than 50-50 chance that they will ever return to any work in any capacity, which frankly I think is pretty sad. So injured workers are more likely to return to workplace if they feel a connection to that workplace. And one of the things that you can do is just to call and check on your injured employees. I'm sure the managers do this too. I hope they do that. But how are you feeling? How's everything going? Show that you care. It can be very isolating to be sitting at home with a workers' comp injury. So just keep that in mind. I know with attorneys and with the unions, this stuff gets really difficult, but it's still important to remember the human side of this too, because frankly, it's also an investment. It will save you money in the long run if you can keep your employees connected to the workplace. Communication with adjuster. If we haven't gotten there yet, I want to really underline how important it is to talk to your adjuster. You are the eyes on the ground. We need to know from you if somebody's gone out of work or returns to work. I also understand that a lot of you guys are sitting in administrative offices and don't always have great communication. And my advice there is just do what you can to build that. Make sure that the managers and the frontline people understand the process for workers' comp claims. If there's any indication of foul play, we've gotten here is the claimant playing on a local sports team. Again, we don't get the local papers. We don't get the local gossip. So if there's anything that you suspect that indicates foul play, just pass that along so we can chase it down. It's also good to know if the claimant is causing trouble from an HR standpoint. I know HR can be really tricky and really sensitive, but please know that our adjusters are keeping everything private on our end, and that it is so often really important that HR and workers' comp professionals are talking to each other to understand the implications that one person or the other person is doing. Really important. If the injured worker retires for any reason, if they had a scheduled retirement or if they've decided to retire because of their injury, that's really important to our claim. So we need to know that. And I've got here any other significant HR developments. Again, just really important. My example here, there was one county, not yours, where we were about to settle a claim for a pretty large amount of money, a pretty big settlement. And in the 11th hour, we found out that this person was also suing the county for employer issues. So obviously we don't want to give somebody a huge boatload of money if they're also going after the county on a different front. So just be aware of these things because they can happen. And obviously we can't move forward appropriately without talking to each other. So keep that in mind, please. Return to work or not. I put a not here because sometimes the person physically can't return to work. Sometimes you don't want them to work, so we don't have to rush them along. But the best way to minimize the long-term severity and cost of a claim is to return the claimant to work. Ideally, they'll be able to go back to their original duties. They can work with a nurse case manager to make sure they can get there, but we want to make sure that they've been cleared by their doctor to do so. We don't want anybody to get re-injured once they've come back to work. That's not good for anybody. Modified or light duty. If the injured worker cannot return to their normal duties, and if their union contracts allow it, then we would love to know about any modified or light duty programs. So if you have light duty available, that's another thing to please communicate with your adjuster. Although I know with unions, it's really tricky, close to impossible. So just keep that in mind, please. And yeah, so the decision to return somebody to work has medical, legal, and procedural implications for the claim. So it is important that it is a group conversation about whether this person is, first of all, ready to return to work, and second of all, able to return to work. It's important that we're returning people safely. And we want to make sure the HR office is involved and knows about it too. Again, not just for the forms, but so that they know what's going on in the workplace. Finally, we'll go on to claim closure. So claims can be closed in different ways. It is hard to close a claim within New York State. You close a claim if the person stops treating and they don't pursue any more benefits, then we can close an award. If they have been paid out their benefits, a schedule loss of use award is a mandatory award that they can get for certain types of injuries. So if that's paid and the person stops treating, if they voluntarily remove themselves from the labor market, meaning that they are cleared by their medical professional to return to work, but they have decided not to, then that's a way that their benefits can end. You can't be recovered from your workers' comp injury and decide you never want to work again. That doesn't really work that way. Section 114A, that's the fraud statute. If that has been found and applied and the claim has been disallowed for fraud, then we close that claim. I will note, that one gets tricky with whether the medical is cut off or just the indemnity. So that one, again, a lot of these issues are trickier than they seem. Or the claimant death without dependents. If somebody dies and they don't have dependents and they didn't die because of their injury, the claim is wrapped up that way. The one that I skipped there is the Section 32 settlement. That's the one where we choose to settle the claim. There's a lot of issues within the claim that can result in a bulk award being paid out, but the only one that's an actual settlement, I hear people using the term wrong, which is why I'm belaboring the point here. The only settlement where we've settled a claim for a bulk amount of money is a Section 32 settlement. I note here the only two ways a claim can be closed forever is Section 32 settlement or claimant death. So if we close a claim because somebody's not treating, but then 5 or 10 years down the road, they decide to start treating again, then that can still be reopened. So workers' comp is really tough. And the way that we approach it is honestly just a lot of communication, making sure that our injured workers are treated fairly. They get their medical treatment quickly. We've got nurse case managers on staff to help them move through the process, because these are big claims. That's the end of my formal presentation. I'm going to pop back over here to, again, the resources and forms page is I think very useful. You do not have to log in to get to this page. So any of these forms that I've talked about today are on the resources and forms page. There's the new claims forms packet. They're the C2F document. And then the other forms too, the C240 and the C11 are here. The employer reimbursement request, if you're asked for that. Vocational questionnaire, physical capabilities form, if you're trying to, if we're trying to work with the doctor on what the person's capabilities are and what their work requirements are. Those are the forms that are all useful for you guys. So we have them all here under resources and forms. I went pretty quickly. Are there any questions? Or Emily, Lindsay, do you guys have anything else that you'd like me to cover and touch on today? All right, I don't know that anybody's going to be upset if we don't use the whole hour that we took. Emily, anything else you wanted me to touch on?
No, but just to let everybody here know that they can reach out to me or Susan Stinson on the workers' comp. Any questions? I communicate a lot with Erin and Val, and mainly just try to get those injuries reported on the C2F, and that also includes for the volunteers who are on this call. So in the chat, so you must have done perfect. You answered everybody's questions.
I'm so glad when that happens. Yeah, if you guys have any questions,
yeah,
you know where to find us. There's my email right there, and my phone number. So please feel free to reach out. We like to make sure that you have all the resources you need to do your job and work with us. So I appreciate you doing that.
thank you, Erin.
All right. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.